What's going on, everyone? So I don't know about you, but I didn't really get much education about how to manage my finances before or during or even after pharmacy school. I ended up taking out the max loans every year. Had a good time, but I took out the max loans each year, and I even used part of it to finance a new car. Bad idea. The thing is, it didn't really hit me until I graduated with about $134,000 in loans after pharmacy school, with $14,000 of it being just interest alone. And the other thing was, my colleagues who had already graduated and was working as a pharmacist already, they were always owing the government money when they filed the taxes. So I was just kind of confused on what's going on. Just because you're a pharmacist, do you always end up owing money? I was just confused, and a lot of it was just because I literally had zero financial literacy. And because of all that, I spent the last few years kind of reading up a little bit more, getting educated on finances, retirement, investing, and really managing and learning how to manage my finances. That is also why, and also at the request of many of you, that I am planning on launching a series of videos on financial literacy and financial planning, investing, and really how to take care and manage your finances. But in this video though, I really want to keep it basic and just introduce you to some of the most common retirement accounts that you're likely to encounter. And I'll also provide some examples of how I'm currently managing them and give you some recommendations. Let's go. So one of the hallmarks of financial literacy, especially as a legal drug dealer, is learning how to keep more of that hard-earned money that you're making and really understanding how to shelter it from taxes and keeping it away from Uncle Sam. Like I said earlier though, this video is going to cover some of the more basic accounts. So for today, I was going to just briefly talk about 401ks/403bs, individual retirement accounts or IRAs, and 529 accounts. I'm assuming the individuals who are watching this video do not have much experience with this, so let me just give a brief rundown and so we can kind of level set what these accounts are and some basic definitions of them. So beginning with 401ks/403bs, these retirement accounts are basically offered by your employer. So if your employer doesn't offer it, you won't have the ability to get access to one. So if you are currently working for someone, double check to see if they currently offer a 401k or 403b. Now, I'm certainly not going to go into the details about the differences between the two, but the reason why I'm saying 401k/403bs is because the main distinction between them is that 401ks are typically offered by for-profit companies. And this is in contrast with 403bs, which are offered by tax-exempt companies like schools and hospitals. For those of you who are in the healthcare field, 403bs are really our bread and butter here, and basically the accounts that you're likely to be using. So next is individual retirement accounts, which you most commonly will hear them abbreviated as IRAs. There are traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs, which I will go into details later on which one is better and some of the differences between the two. But for now, I think that's kind of out of scope for this. The main high-level thing you can know about it is traditional IRAs are pre-tax and Roth IRAs are post-tax. They're typically offered through various brokerage firms, and you basically can just go directly to them and sign up and open an account. The one eligibility criteria for IRAs, at a high level that is, because there's a lot of other nitty-gritty details about it, but the main criteria is that you must be earning an income. So you have to have a job to get an IRA, or you must be married to someone who's currently earning income. Now the last one that I'm going to talk about today are 529 accounts. These accounts are typically offered by various states, educational institutions, and brokerage firms. And I'll get a little bit more into details about this later, but these are basically used if you want to save for any type of educational expenses like college, grad school, and things of that sort. So now I'm going to move on to another section where I'm going to talk and give you some recommendations, some practical recommendations on where to go next, knowing that information. To begin with, the first general rule of thumb that you would typically hear is that you want to save 15 to 20% of your annual gross salary towards retirement. I like to do 15% towards retirement, and I take the other 5% and I kind of invest it in various places. But you can do whatever you like with it. But the general rule of thumb again is 15 to 20% of your annual gross salary, save it, and I'm going to give you some recommendations on what to do with this pot of money. So first off, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to an employer and check to see if they offer a 401k or 403b. Additionally, what you really want to check for is to see if they offer any type of matching for your contributions. And something to know is that if they do, they typically cap it at some percent. So basically, this is money that your employer will give you up to a certain amount, which again, like I said, is capped. But basically, money that your employer will give you that as an incentive if you contribute yourself, and they'll match some portion of that. And what you want to do here is basically the first recommendation is to contribute up to the max, taking that 15 to 20% pot and contribute up to the max of what your employer matches. So let's say, for example, you make $40,000 a year, right? And your employer matches 100% of your contribution, capped at 5% of your salary. So what that means is you take 40,000 multiplied by 5%, which ends up being $2,000. And what that would mean for you is that you want to contribute at least $2,000 a year to that account, because your employer will then give you $2,000 and deposit it into that account for you. I think this is really important to highlight because, in my opinion, what I've seen is that a lot of people miss that. And it's definitely something you want to take advantage of, because this is basically free money that is given to you by your employer. And if you don't do it, it's basically money left on the table. So definitely look into that. Contribute up to the max of what your employer offers. Now, the next thing to do, the second thing after you've done that, is to look into an individual retirement account or an IRA. And what you want to do here is whatever is left from that 15 to 20%, you've contributed it up to the max of whatever your employer matches. Then you take the remaining portion and dump it into a IRA. And for 2017, the limit is $5,500 for individuals that are age 50 or less. And then you get you can contribute an additional $1,000 if you're over age 50, so $6,500 a year. So that pot of money, contribute to 401k/403b, then contribute to an IRA up into the max, $5,500. Now you may be wondering, is there a cap on 401k/403bs? And why not max that out before going into a IRA? Well, a couple of reasons for that. As a general rule of thumb, again, this is very high-level general rule of thumbs here. IRAs are typically more flexible in the types of funds you can invest in compared to a 401b/401k. You can practically invest in any fund you want in an IRA. As opposed to 401k/403bs, the funds you can invest in depends on your employer. Whatever your employer negotiated with XYZ brokerage firm, so for example like Fidelity or Vanguard, whatever the negotiations are, you can only invest in the funds that they negotiated on. You can't invest in all different funds. The other thing to know is that many times, not all the times, but many times, 401ks and 403bs ends up incurring higher fees. Because of that, you're going to want to, once you get your free money from your employer, so you contribute up to the match, then you put in the IRA, which allows you to invest in lower fees and more selection of funds. And this will be important later when we get into more advanced strategies that talk about asset allocation. So like, which funds do you pick? Which asset classes do you pick? What is the percentage of asset classes? And that's something I'll talk about later on. But to design those kind of portfolios, you would want to have more flexible funds in general. Now, if you had enough money to do both, so you contributed up to the max, then you contributed max for your IRA for that year, which is $5,500. Then you could take whatever is remaining from that 15 to 20% and put it back into the 401k/403b, up to whatever money you have. For this year, in 2017, the limit is $18,000 a year. And if you're over the age of 50, you can actually contribute an additional $6,000. So that's the third thing you're gonna wanna do. That's pretty much it for the basics to get you started. What's most important, aside from all this other finance jargon, is that you start saving now versus later. The whole concept of compounded interest, I cannot emphasize enough. Probably not something I'm going to talk about now. If you're watching this video, you probably already understand the importance of it, so I'm not going to convince you, but just get started now. That's the most important thing. Something else I did want to mention though is that there are so many other factors that you should be considering, such as residency, marriage, student loans, or other large purchases such as a car or a house. There are many other ways and many other accounts that you should prioritize higher and take advantage of over these other accounts, depending on those circumstances. And one in particular that I wanted to mention, because I'm currently going through it now, is a 529 account. Now, if you've been following some of my videos, you know that I applied and I got accepted to Hopkins, and I'll be pursuing my MPH starting in January 2018. I actually deferred it. I was supposed to start this June of 2017, but it interferes with the go live, so I will be deferring it to start in January 2018. But in general, because I am pursuing an MPH, I did want to save money for that in a 529 account, and that's because the 529 account is a tax advantage account that grows tax-free as long as you're spending your money on tuition or school-related fees. And also doing so, if you save now and allow it to grow tax-free, I don't have to take out those loans, spend those expensive 6.8% student loans. And I'm not gonna get into too much more details about 529 accounts, but basically if you expect to have student loans or currently have student loans, I highly suggest looking more into details about a 529 account. Just for some general rules of thumb for 529 accounts, if that's something you're considering, is that the first thing you want to do is to look into your own state. Whichever one you live in, your state 529 accounts typically offer additional tax savings beyond the tax-free earnings and growth that your account would incur. And that it differs depending on state, so that's something first that you'd want to check into. And the thing is, not all states do. So for example, I'm currently living in Minnesota. Unfortunately for me, Minnesota sucks. And so I looked elsewhere to see what other 529 accounts may be better. I actually started with Utah's 529, heard a lot of great things about it. Very low expense ratios, they use Vanguard funds. I really like Vanguard, so I went with them. And I actually just switched to Vanguard's 529 account, because they actually had lower fees, just very little. It was a 0.03 expense ratio difference. But basically, the bottom line there is they had just slightly different, they had slightly lower fees if I went with Vanguard for my state, so important to know. But I'll try to give you some more details about 529 accounts if that's something you guys are considering in the future. Alright guys, so I hope this video was helpful. I tried to cover the very basics. Again, this series is probably geared, and this video also is probably geared towards individuals that know nothing at all about financial planning. So let me know your thoughts, let me know if it was helpful, and until next time guys. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and watching the video. If you like the content, definitely hit the Impro RX button over to your left to subscribe, and definitely check out more videos over here to your right. Now, as always, if you have questions, comments, and even better, suggestions for future videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, until next time guys.